Welcome in, race fans, to another edition of In the Dirt. We are experiencing technical difficulties here at the Dillard Ranch. We are without power. A tremendous thunderstorm came running through here earlier, and apparently uprooted trees all around. So I am calling to you live from Studio B, which is the wife's SUV. Busy, a not so busy week, I guess. Florence gets rained or snowed or water. I don't know exactly what caused the cancellation of the race there at Florence, but there was racing at Bulls Gap. Jonathan Blankenship parked here in Victory Lane. He's actually going to join us here about 10 minutes after the hour. I was reassigned to East Alabama to cover the Southern All-Star event that Jonathan Davenport took home the payday in. He pretty much owned the field. He got a pretty good handle on the super part of the program there at AES. But without further ado, I didn't know that. I couldn't tell whether the music had stopped or the cell phone service was going out, but I didn't know what happened at the beginning of the show. I apologize for that.
No, that's okay. So you had a bunch of storms come through down there, takes your power out, but we still managed to pull it off again. That's
right. There's very few things that will stop us from having the show. But I had to take the kid and the dog and throw both them in the tub. Get to the centermost part of the house, she said. She was the one being safety about it. I was trying to watch it because, I find 70-mile-an-hour straight-line winds fascinating. Or I'm just really dumb and want to go outside and watch it. So I took care of the child and the pet. And but the power's out, so we'll struggle through this like we do when we're throwing a curveball.
So is it like Mother Nature training for the world or the dream for you to be up in the flag stand with your camera?
Now it's peaceful, but it got cold. It was 70 degrees before, but when it came through, brother, it was. I'd be shocked if there wasn't any tornadoes around because I've never heard the wind howl like it was, and about 20 minutes straight. But what happened at Florence? What was the actual call? Was it just too much water around the speed? What was actually?
I don't know. I don't know if they had too much water, and I don't have the actual report, so I'm going to make an assumption. But I would say the weather was nice. Like it rained. It rained really early that morning. Pretty hard, but then the rest of the day it was dry and it was warm. But by the time the sun started going down, it was just terribly cold. So I'm going to make the assumption that they just assumed that. And plus, the forecast was calling for rain all day. So you got to keep that in mind. And most people, that's what they're gauging whether they're going to go somewhere or not. Is they're watching the forecast. Newscaster says it's going to rain, but it ended up being nice and sunny and warm. But like I said, by 6 o'clock in the afternoon, when the sun started going down, it got really cold really quick. So that's going. I'd say that's why.
I was very excited to finally, get to go to a race at Florence. That was my assignment. It was on my schedule. But about midweek, it wasn't looking good. There was snow on the ground from what one Jody Shannon reported to me Tuesday or Wednesday. But I will say this, it did not hurt my feelings to go to East Alabama where it was a high of 77 instead of a high of 47. So I was kind of glad to go. I've had enough cold between Arizona this year and the Bama Bash. I'm done with cold weather racing until the fall. Now,
whatever that was.
What happened? Well, I didn't hear it.
Yeah, you're losing signal. You're going to have to turn and face the nearest cell tower.
Yeah, great. This is not going to be a fun night, I can tell already.
Yeah. No, it's going to be a hard night.
Okay. I'll tell you what.
I'll tell you what. You know what you sound like? Do you remember about 20 years ago when Windows had that sound recognition software? You could just spell a word and it would just speak it in like computer voice.
So it's bad?
Yeah, it's that bad.
All right. Well, do me a favor. Let's do this.
Let's go to a break and call back.
I'll drive somewhere real quick to get better reception.
Right on. We'll be right back.
Yeah, be right back. All right, welcome back in, race fans. We're fighting through this deal. Like I said, when the show started, we had some storms roll through here in northeast Alabama. Knocked out the power, 50-mile radius, best I can tell. So bear with us. Brian, we got our first guest online?
Yeah, he's right here in the room with us, Webb.
Well, welcome to the program. The winner of the race over at Bulls Gap this past weekend, John Blankenship. John, first talk us through the event this past weekend.
Well, it was pretty exciting. We went up there Friday to play around a little bit and, ended up qualifying a little bit behind the 8-ball there. So I think I ended up 6th or 7th up there. I don't even remember now, but I had a fun night and learned a little bit about tire management and all that. The track was pretty hard on tires, at least on my car this week. So, it helped us out a lot on Saturday night still, and we knew what to qualify on and pretty much knew what it was going to take to run 60 laps. So, we ended up with a really well-balanced car. It was awesome.
So for the feature, and I've been to the racetrack, and it's just one of them places that's super, super fast. What was the racetrack like during the did it change through the night? What was it giving you guys?
Well, it changed to me a little bit. When I qualified, I could run around the top of 1 and 2 real well, and there wasn't so much a cushion, but there was a little bit of moisture up there, and for whatever reason, I could just touch that with my right rear, and it would just dig real hard and all that. But by the end of the night, it was more, to me, down lower in the middle of the racetrack. There must have been a little bit of rubber laid down. I could put my right rear in that and just rotate right around with a lot of traction. But either way, it was a lot of fun. Bulls Gap's a lot of fun in general, except a lot of fun to drive around, I would say. It's sometimes a little frustrating to race around because, you can be faster than a guy and run up beside him in 1 and 2, and even you can drive around him into 3, but coming off 4, if you're higher than them, you're just, the banking leaves, and it's really hard to complete the pass. And but either way, we had a ball being up there. We enjoy it, and we appreciate Ray Cook and all them guys for putting it on.
Now you guys got 3 or 4 pretty big wins last year to end the season, and then get this win, but pretty much a Lucas field, wasn't it, there at Bulls Gap?
Yeah, it was really similar to Lucas rules. Even the way he did the Group 1 and 2 thing, where I was fast time in Group 1 and Scott was fast time in Group 2. It's kind of the same deal. And, I kind of like it. That's actually the main reason we decided to race at the Gap this weekend was to, we ran American Racers all year last year, and we were getting on the Hoosiers this year. So, even though we were allowed to run a slightly broader range of Hoosiers than we're going to be allowed in the series, we stuck with exactly what we're going to be allowed to run in the series, more or less, to get our car a little more acclimated to handle with those different tires on them, because the American Racers, for whatever reason, they affect the handling of our car a lot, and it actually changes our setup a little bit. But overall, we were pretty impressed with it. I got a lot of help from Hoosier Tire South and Pup and all them guys, and I really appreciate all their input because we've been out of the loop on the Hoosier deal for 2.5 years now. So
Brian,
they were a big help.
Brian, you probably have a question about the one tire rule for John.
Well, we had talked about going to one tire only, and me and Jim Moon kind of discussed it a little bit along with a few other people. And some people believe that if you're going to go with a one-tire rule, that you go with a really hard tire, and that makes the tires last long and whatever. But me and Jim kind of proposed the idea of maybe not a hard tire. Maybe you go with a really soft tire, and you force guys to, A, be very good on the throttle. You're going to have to save those tires even in a 20 lap heat, in a 20 or 30 lap feature. You're really going to have to save the tires, but also make that tire very, very affordable.
And that's actually a very good point. A lot of the tire roll races we go to will be like a WRS2, like a 55 rubber only type race. And for whatever reason, they seem to take rubber faster. I don't know if that's for more wheel spin or what it is. I don't know the specifics of the way all that works, but you usually end up with a less racy racetrack. And, if I was going to pick a series that was only going to run one tire, I would probably say like a D21 type rubber, 1350 type stuff.
Right, and that's kind of along the lines I was thinking too, like a 1300 or a 1350. A 1300 maybe wouldn't hold up so well. Maybe a 1350 would hold up a little better, but I think that you kind of start getting into the area, because what we're trying to defeat is defeat the tire prep issue. Because I don't think that with a soft tire, you have guys that are going to spin. I just don't see tire prep affecting a soft tire. I don't know what you would, because you would probably be trying to make it harder, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't understand the tire prep stuff. We've not really tested enough with it to even understand much of what goes on there. There might be more there than the soft compound. I don't know for sure, but the harder tires, like a Bull's Gap, they're not. I couldn't imagine wanting a softer tire. I put on the hardest thing that was allowed in the rules. I just ran 1600 more or less, just because to me, I knew I was going to abuse the tire a little bit, and that's just my driving style. I've been burning a lot of tires off, especially since I got back on the Hoosier stuff. But the only thing that makes me nervous about going to a one-tire deal is that you're probably going to be dealing with one tire manufacturer. And, while I kind of like the idea of getting off of this, all this casings deal, that the main reason the Lucas switched over was apparently because they were experimenting with so many different types of casings. They had 1600, and when you see 1600, the general fan thinks, okay, 1600, but there might be 6, 7, 8, 17, who knows how many different kinds of 1600, the way the casing is and the way that, the sidewall flex and the overall tire will flex, which more or less makes the tire think it's either softer or harder. And so, that's why at the end of the year last year, anytime I got on an American Racer 56, I was absolutely dreading it, because I knew that the 1600, they had more options out there. They were putting a whole lot more money in behind making the 1600 outrun the 56 at all costs. So, to me, it was really hard to race once we got on that stuff. As long as we were on, 1300, 1350 range, I felt like, American Racer had an excellent tire. And, but the only thing that makes me nervous about the whole switching over situation is that we might end up with a deal kind of like NASCAR or ARCA, where we're in a one-tire manufacturer type situation where 4 or 5 years down the line, we're going to end up paying $300 a tire, and it's actually an inferior to tire what we even have now, because there's no competition. I think, I listened to Earl's Dirtcast last week on Dirt on Dirt, I think it was, and he was talking about how he thinks that, this will eliminate competition and reduce cost for the racer. And in the immediate future, that is probably the case. But in the long term, it's probably going to hurt everyone.
It's going to drive the cost of the tire up.
Yeah, because there's not going to be anybody to compete against, so why can't they charge whatever they want to charge for it? And that's the only thing that makes me nervous. And it's not that I have anything against Hoosier or I'm rooting for American Racer or anything like that. I appreciate all those guys. They've all helped me a tremendous amount. And, I just want to see the best thing for the racing at the end of the day, because, honestly, I look at my budget every year, and the tires, even though they make a little footprint in our budget, our truck fuel costs more than our tire bill. The fuel to run our truck up and down the road costs more than my tire bill. It's not at the top of my list as far as concerns. Motors are getting a little concerning to me. They're real expensive, and go for the trucks are expensive. Tires, I don't know. It's just a weird situation. I feel like we might be getting duped, a little bit here on this whole deal. But
I've also made this point several times, John, that this is the only sport that feeds on itself, whether it's a motor builder or the tire companies it's odd to me that there's no money coming into the sport that's not the sport money. There's no outside advertising, very little, if any. Lucas does a good job with bringing things in. But, a motor that you got to go pay $10,000 to get refreshed after 600 laps, or whatever the number is ridiculous to me.
It's just insane. And, that's eventually where we'll end up. I think ARCA right now is even in a worse situation. You've got guys putting $1 million into their deal, and, they're running races for $3,000 a win or something. Which, that's not where they get their money, but, Eventually, if we keep letting one tire manufacturer or one engine manufacturer or whatever you want to choose run the whole show, that's what we're going to end up with. And, I don't know that that's necessarily a bad thing for the fans. I've not been around the whole deal long enough to see, like my crew chief, Tom Buckingham, he's been around long enough to see different trends take place. And honestly, I don't know what the right trend is, but just my business sense tells me that having no competition in a tire or anything is going to be bad for the racer at the end of the day. Because,
right. And you have to look at it also from not just from the level that you're at right now, but there has to be some, I don't know, you have to find, there has to be some roots somewhere. There has to be a pool somewhere where these guys are coming from. Otherwise, it's more along the lines of what's going on in NASCAR. Not saying that any of those guys are not talented. I think there are quite a few of them that are talented, but I also think there are quite a few that, given different circumstances, there would be no possible way they would ever be allowed to drive.
That's which I can tell you firsthand. A lot of them are way better than we would think they are. They're very good. Everybody I've encountered anyway out there. But yeah, I mean it becomes a money situation. Then it's not about the racing anymore. It's all about who can pay the most to develop this or develop that, or it's just and that's the way it'll eventually become, even with the tire rule. I don't know if Scott Bloomquist and the Owens and the Moyers and all those guys will get special treatment from the bigger companies. I have no way of knowing that, but it just makes me feel for the sport when you're locked into one tire and you don't necessarily have the best relationship with whatever company it is that happens to be working with. It's just an uneasy situation.
Well, I was going to ask you what we should know about you that the everyday man may not know, but obviously you care about the sport just in all your answers there, and the concern you have for some of the gouging that could take place with dictatorship, so to speak, or monopolies. But I want to ask you about running second at the Dream. I mean, you had your foot to the floor just trying to get there, right?
Yeah. I think that was actually my biggest downfall. That I pushed a little hard on some of them restarts and actually hurt the edges on my tires. But the way that track has been the last couple of years, it's really the restarts are your best shot to try to get a position, just because the top's been so dominant. And there, even if somebody's running, the middle of the high line, it's hard to get around them on the outside just because you lose that air once you get on the right side of them there. But so yeah, I probably gouged a little too hard. Somebody with my car with a little more experience in that situation might have even been able to win the race. I had an excellent car. I think I tried to jump a gun a little bit and hurt the edges on my tires. And Clanton's, he's no slouch up there. He's run good a bunch of times. But either way, we had a lot of fun. It was a good run for us. It made us happy. So we hope to go up there and get a win one of these days, though.
I mean, I could imagine that's the granddaddy of them all. You want that trophy, but finishing second. I mean, you didn't drive back to the pits very mad, I'm sure.
Oh no, I was pretty happy with it. I was, when I first came back to the pits, though, even my wife, she came over and said, good run, and she was all happy and all that. But I was wanting to know what kind of lap times we were running and how much slower I was than Clanton. I want to know why I got beat, not worry about how I ran second, because I knew how I ran second. I sat there for 100 laps watching it. But,
nice, yeah, I got you.
I want to know how much I liked winning.
Well, the last thing I want to touch on with you, and I know you're a busy guy with school and all and family, but I got to sit with your dad at Green Valley. And I'll be the first to admit I knew who the guy was too, a little bit about Cole and everything, but I didn't really know. So anyway, I'm sitting with this guy. He comes in, hey, Mr. Blankenship. He said, you with Dirt on Dirt? And I said, well, I freelance for him. He said, I want to talk about these polls. And I said, well, I got John at 20, sir. Just so you know, before we go any further, I got him. I vote in it, and so he was talking, and it's really neat. Your dad's so down to earth, just so freaking down to earth, especially when he's talking about racing. And his idea was to add a computer ranking to all the human polls, kind of like college football does. But
Yeah.
How much involvement? I know your dad's at the races and stuff. How much involvement does Don have in the program, and does he come talk to you? I mean, is he a calming figure for you? But what's his involvement?
Well, I definitely wouldn't call him a calming figure. He's the one that kind of, he's like, when you run second at the Dream, why didn't you win? Or if you win a race, why didn't you lap the field? One of them sort of deals.
Yeah, I bet.
But yeah, he's always one that's way ahead of you on the numbers, so there's no need to even double check what the numbers are. If he says that Dirt on Dirt says this, and you've won this, and you've done this, and run top 10 against these guys, that you should be here. I've just learned to take his word for it because he's way ahead on me on them numbers. But he actually came up with his own ranking system last year, I think. I don't know where we ended up on that. I think it was way back there like in 10th or something. But he had a pretty good system of who you're racing against is the way you judge. I see the way the Dirt on Dirt does it, and it makes it way more interesting for anybody that comes to look at it. But he was looking at his regional racers. Go ahead.
Yeah. Well, the interesting thing this year is there's about 30 of us that are voting in it, and we're from all over the country. So
yeah,
you've got the group you're in, like the Lucas guys, and we're out. The top 10 to 12 are easy. You can pretty much pick those and put them in order. But it's that 15 through 25 that's just killer for any one person to figure out.
Yeah, you've always got those top guys. You've got the Moyers and the Bloomquist, and they're always going to be up there. I mean, they're just really good, and it's our job to get out there and beat them.
Yeah, well, we certainly appreciate taking time out of your day. I know you got college and family and all that, and getting ready for the season. So before we let you get out here, thank you very much for joining us. Hope we can have you back on here later in the season. But before we let you go,
you missed the question, Webb.
We missed a question. What was it?
You missed the question. And we tend to ask guys that are regulars on the series on any series this question.
Oh, I did. You're right. I'm sorry. Okay,
which one is it?
Do you think, given the current circumstances and the way things seem to play out, do you believe at all? I mean, do you have any thought that maybe the World Racing Group is requesting the drivers that are regulars on their series to not race with the Lucas Series?
I don't really know. It is kind of weird that you asked that because, the one that really struck me is, Lanigan last year at the North-South and all that. Not showing up to the North-South. That one's the only one that really made me question what's going on because, close to his house, he runs decent there. I don't know what the deal is with that, but it's hard for me to say. I'm from the outside. I'm no different than you guys in looking in on that whole situation, but it really surprised me. I don't even run well up there, and I went there, so I don't really know how to answer that one.
I think that there is something going on, and because I just noticed that there are regulars on the World of Outlaws, and they'll show up at events like particularly East Bay. And we could say that I won't even say who the particulars were, but most people know they were there in the pits, and their cars were nearby, but they weren't racing. So we'll just leave it at that.
Yeah, I mean, I really don't know. I can see how it could work either way, but I think it goes back to what one of you guys said earlier. I think everybody's got to stop cutting each other's throat a little bit. The tracks need to stop cutting the throat of the racer. The series needs to stop cutting the throat of other series. We all need to work together to grow this sport. And it's a great sport. It's just there's a little too many people getting a little too greedy. And the sad part about it is, at the end of the day, it's not even that big amounts of money. It costs a lot of money to run a dirt team for a year. And these guys are selling out for a lot less money. And it's a little frustrating to watch, but either way, we're happy to be out here where we're at and running with all these guys. I just enjoy trying to go out here and be competitive with the Scott Bloomquist and the Owens and all that, and hope to beat them. But at the end of the day, I don't know what's going on, and I'm probably not the guy to ask. You probably need to get somebody out here like Scott or somebody with a big voice.
Well, John, I'll tell you the one thing that I've always said since day one, of working in the sport, and since we've done this radio show now for a year and a half or so, is we all must be a steward of this sport. We all must take responsibility and be accountable for the sport, leave it better than what we found it. And I don't think that a lot of track owners seem that way. They don't see it that way. It's what I can get. What can I get? I mean, you got some promoters that look at the fans as just a turnstile deal, and counting their money, and then they don't even care about the product. I mean, there's places you go to where you can't even let your family use the restroom.
Exactly. or the racetrack doesn't have water on it or anything. I mean, it could be. I've seen a lot of it, and I don't know how to go about changing that. In a perfect world, you'd have a series that, only races tracks that meet a certain safety standard and only meet a certain sanity standard. All kinds of stuff. But I don't know how feasible that really is.
Yeah. Well,
I've not really looked at it enough.
I tell you, I've learned more about you in this 15 minutes we've talked to you than I could ever. Most guys don't have the. Most guys are just more just so focused on the race and they don't care about the other stuff. So I applaud you for having an opinion on the other stuff, and you seemingly want to help make it better. So you just became one of my top 5 guys, man. I appreciate you.
Oh, well, thanks a lot. I appreciate it.
Well, you just don't. It's not. I mean, Brian,
And after pulling off that big win, he had to move up in the poll.
Well, I hope I moved up a little bit. I noticed I fell out of the top 25 or whatever, but my dad was asking me about that. And I told him that's because we skipped half of Florida. I could have gone there, maybe won one.
It's certainly. There's 30 of us to. I think I have you in the poll still. I'm not. I have to look. I mean, I don't know. I didn't even get a chance to send it in tonight. Hopefully it gets there because of the power outage. But back to letting you get out here. Thanks very much for joining us here on In the Dirt. Hopefully we can have you back on. And thank the crew members that helped get that win over the weekend, and also some of the sponsors.
Oh, yeah. I got to thank first Cole Save the Country at SaveTheCountry.com for all their support. And Bear Cove Village, Pigeon Forge, Tennessee, RV Park, they've really come up and helped us, which that's one of mine and my wife's businesses. So we kind of help ourselves on that one. Todd Case Trucking. And then I got to thank, of course, all my product sponsors, Cornet Racing Engines, Jay Dickens, Rocket Chassis, Integra, all those guys help us out a ton. And Hoosier Tire South has come up a lot and really helped us over East Bay. And even this past weekend, they really helped us a lot. So we appreciate everybody. And, of course, my dad, he kind of puts all this together and keeps us all in line and keeps us moving forward. So, thanks to him. And that about wraps it up.
All right. Well, John, good luck with the Lucas Oil series. The schedule's upon us here soon, so be safe up and down the highway and get you some checker flags, man.
We're going to try our best.
All right, John Blankenship, the Friends of Cole number 23 car.
Yep. Thank you, guys.
All right.
Bye.
Now, Brian, you've got to have loved that interview with him. Welcome back, guys. We are toughing through this show. It couldn't get any worse.
It's probably hard to listen to.
It might be. It doesn't come off. It's not coming through my end bad. I heard the theme song fine.
I haven't had anybody message me saying that it's broadcasting bad, but I have no way to listen to whatever we're doing.
So it appears Paul Fletcher, the writer for Late Model Illustrated, is trying to get in, and for whatever reason can't. So I don't know if Blog Talk's having a problem tonight. If I get him, is there any way he can call in on your end and get in? Is there a way to do it?
Do you have his number?
Yeah, I think so. Let's see here.
Hey, here, I'll tell you what. We'll put this little theme back on. I'll put you in the bubble, and
let's do that. I want to make sure we can get Paul on. I
can call him.
All right.
All right. So we'll be right back in just a second. This is how you make it work, Webb.
Are we on there?
Yeah, you're there.
Okay.
I don't know what happened. My whole screen went blank for a second with all the little play buttons.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then all of a sudden we were on the air. So.
Well, this is definitely one for the ages. So I hope everybody's enjoying the program this evening. But on the telephone finally, we got Paul Fletcher. He's a writer for the Late Model Illustrated. Paul, welcome to the most screwed up shows of the entire life of our show.
Well, thank you guys for having me. I really appreciate it.
No problem. Now, you and I, we finally met at down at Volusia, and we met when we were discussing. Hey, did you hear what happened in the pits? Can you give me any information? So, you not only do you write your column for the Late Model Illustrated, but you're a natural-born journalist. Tell us a little bit about the evolution of your career and how you got to work with Brian McLeod and the guys at Late Model Illustrated.
Well, the whole thing started kind of by accident, Webb, to tell you the truth. Started taking some college courses when I was about 32 years old, and my freshman English teacher convinced me that I knew how to write. And I didn't believe her, but she seemed to know what she was talking about. So I went down to the school newspaper and started doing some work for them, mostly focusing on the some music, doing some live music reviews and CD reviews and things like that. And ended up going to school for 3 years, and I went to Northern Indiana on an internship and at a small paper up there, and worked a week up there and was offered a full-time job and decided to stay. And stayed up there a couple of years and ended up going to Tennessee for a year and went up to Michigan. And while I was in Michigan, I was doing some freelancing for the Jackson Citizen Patriot, a daily newspaper, a daily in Jackson, Michigan. And I did a story on the driver that we've all heard of, Rusty Schlink. I'm sure you guys are familiar with that name, right?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Rusty,
and I did
Rusty's a good friend of the show. He's been on here a number of times.
Yeah, Rusty's a good guy. I think a lot of him. But he was still 16 years old when I did this story. He was a high school junior. Maybe he was 17 and a senior. I'm not sure. But anyway, I wrote the story and sent it over to the newspaper. And it was just kind of a human interest type piece, focusing as much on the other parts of his life as much as the racing. And they said the story was too long and they wanted to cut it. And I said, well, no, we're not going to do that because it's a good story. And they said, well, if we can't cut it, we're not going to take it. And I said, well, you don't get it.
Nice.
So I started shopping it around to some different magazines. And Tim Lee, who at that time was with another magazine, is my editor now at Late Model Illustrated. But at that time he was with another outfit. And he liked it. And I let him have it. And that's kind of how this whole thing got started. It was kind of an accident, really.
So, but you were a race fan before, or no, you weren't,
I went to my first race when I was 3 years old. It was summer 1968. So, yeah, I've been around the sport for 44 years.
And what would be something that fans all seem to concentrate on the same thing, like who's going to be where, or my driver's better. In the years that you've covered the late model guys, or even the community itself, most of these guys are just like us, aren't they?
The drivers just like us?
They're just obviously they put their pants on like we do, but what I'm saying is that most of them are a little more down to earth than maybe the persona lets on.
All of them except Bloomquist, but don't tell them I said that.
Well, hey, play the music.
Oh, Yep, that's right.
If anybody says the B word, we got to play his theme song.
Oh, okay.
And I was lacking on that one again.
But you missed it totally. But anyway.
But it's supposed to go something like this. Well, anybody but Bloomquist, and we'll get.
No, actually, Scott's great. He's always been great to me. But yeah, these guys are, they're human beings just like the rest of us. They love the sport just like the rest of us. Of course, they look at it different because they have to. But yeah, these guys are, most of them are just plain ordinary people, really.
Well, okay, you cover sport, obviously, a lot more than I have. I've only been in it 3 or 4 years, but what are some of the things that Paul Fletcher sees that ails the sport, and what can we
what can we expect to? I mean, just answer the first part first, and then we'll get to the second part. What are some of the things you see what are some of the things you see that ails the sport?
Cost. I mean, that's the big thing. We're pricing ourselves right out of business. You know, John talked about some of this, you know, earlier. You know, about the cost of everything going up, and you know, there's a huge gap between the haves and the have-nots, and it's only going to get bigger. And it scares me because local racing is suffering. You know, tracks that used to, and it's at different levels. Tracks that used to get 50 cars, now they get 25, and tracks that were getting 25, well, they're closed, or they're going to close.
And I hate to interrupt you, Paul, but it seems like that's a part that a lot of these companies might be missing, is that without local racing, we don't have Bloomquist, we don't have Steve Francis, we don't have Darrell Lanigan. Those guys are not here forever. They're not permanent fixtures. We've got to replace those with good personalities, with guys that have a real desire to race, because this is an industry that if you don't have a desire to do this, you become what I would look at as not something to go to the racetrack to watch.
Exactly. You don't have a personality. You become obsolete. You know, you're exactly right. Grassroots racing has been, and always will be the foundation of the sport. Without that, we don't survive.
Well, and it's the market. I mean, All-Star doesn't sell to Scotty or to Bloomquist, is it?
Do what, Webb?
Well, I mean, All-Star don't sell to Bloomquist. All-Star sells to the grassroots guys, you know, racing Friday and Saturday night, the Saturday night heroes, so to speak.
Exactly.
And it's just like, you know, $4,000 for shocks, and then another $1,500-$1,600 to recondition them or whatever the hell they do to them. I mean, the everyday Joe can't afford that. I mean, everyday Joe's just now getting them back on his feet from 2009, the recession.
I know, yeah. You know, you go back through the years, especially the past decade, and there was all this talk about the next level. That used to aggravate me so bad. I mean, this is we're where we're supposed to be. We're already too high a little bit, I think.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, I mean, it's right. You're right. But and the problem, I guess, too, is if you have the money, you can go be a Scott Bloomquist or Jimmy Owens to an extent. I mean, if you have the money. But if you don't have the money, then you're at Talladega Short Track every night. You're at Ponderosa every night. But I just think that we just set a bad precedent for everybody involved. And C.J. Rayburn was on the show, and he said probably the most, I don't know, a lot of people accuse him of not being sane, but he said the most sanest thing I've ever heard in our sport is there's 13,000 late model drivers in the country, or cars, and 12,700 are average Joes. That's who we need to cater to, or we lose everything. And right. I don't know what it's going to take.
Well, Rayburn is one of those misunderstood geniuses. Our sport has a few of those, and he's been around the block a time or two. So I haven't wrote CJ off yet myself.
Oh no, I know. I like the old guy. He just he can be he's like 80 grit sandpaper sometimes.
But yeah, cost, ails sport, just the overall economy, because people can't afford to go to the races like they used to. But, if you go back a couple or 3 years, everybody's predicting gloom and doom and the sport's going to die. And I don't think I see that quite that bad. I mean, most of the races, I think I did 90-something races last year. And, most of them were pretty healthy in the stands and at the back gate. But I don't know how much longer we can continue. If the economy would get back on track and maybe the gas prices would go down to $1.50 where they should be, it would help things a little bit too, I think. But as long as the parts and supplies and fuel, we're just pricing ourselves out of business.
What about the one tire rule and Lucas, or one brand rule? Is that ever good for any sport. I mean, it doesn't matter. It's like saying, okay, you can only wear Nikes in Major League Baseball. I mean, is that ever a good thing for any sport to go with one company to do everything?
I don't know if it would be fair to say that it's not ever a good thing, but if you look around this sport, and you guys have been around the sport, you know exactly what I'm talking about. It appears like there's 3 or 4 different factions of people that are trying to monopolize the sport. And I don't like that either. I don't think that's going to end up being good for the whole of the sport. I don't know. I don't really know how to answer that, because in some ways it might be good. There might be a level of consistency there that maybe we won't see until later. I don't know.
Well, John said it. My idea is the same thing, is that if you only have one person, one company in charge of your tires or whatever, if the tire's 169, they can make it 300 if there's no competition in 2 years. I mean, just seems like free market. It should be free market and competition. And Brian made a point that it brings costs down. What would be wrong with that versus what they're going to do?
Well, nothing would be wrong with that. And the 2 or 3 drivers that I've spoken to about that tire rule specifically, that's exactly what they say. They're afraid tires are going to be, double in price. And they very well could.
They've already they go up every year for UMP. You can only run the Hoosier, the 10, 20, 30, or 40. Most of the tracks have at least limited it to like the 20 or the 40. Which I think that is good, is limiting the choices, but I think we have to come up with we've got to come up with something across the board that keeps us from being forced to buy 12, 14 different compounds of tires in order to be competitive. There's got to be something out there. And the thing is that it seems like it's a struggle to get the guys who, maybe they don't really worry about it too much. Maybe they're running in the top 2 or 3 every week, and they're not going to go along with you. But I don't see why you can't get. Why do the group that is falling below the top 10? Why is it that they tend to just follow with whatever those guys say instead of looking at it for themselves? It just boggles my mind that you cannot. I shouldn't say you cannot. It boggles my mind that it is so hard to get people to come together on any issue that has to do with racing. And maybe it's the competitive spirit, because you're competing against these guys every week. But at some point in time, you've got to look at yourself and say, there's no new faces here. There's no new faces in the stands. What's going on here? At some point, you've got to come together and work it out and figure out what you've got to do to get back on track.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe we're all too selfish. Maybe we're too wrapped up in our own little deal, and we're not thinking about it.
You're right. I've heard people say this about the one tire rule. They say, well, I race here at so-and-so racetrack every weekend, and I know that I need this tire and this tire to run this race. Why should I tell some of these guys that are traveling what tire to come and race on? Because then that just gives them an advantage over me. No, that's other competition coming in there to make you a better racer. You race on that racetrack every week. Your advantage is you have that many more laps versus somebody else at that particular track.
Maybe it's a longevity thing. Maybe nobody's expecting to be around very long. I don't know. And if you look back at the history of the sport, that's the case a lot of times. You have a lot of people come and go, and maybe that's what they think about. I'm not going to be here very long. I'm going to take what I can get and get the hell out. I don't know.
That might be. Yeah, that might be. Well, Paul, I appreciate you taking time out of your Monday evening. What's on tap with your column there in the Late Model Illustrated?
Oh, you mean that fiction that I make up every month?
Yeah, that one.
You can make up some about me if you want. Everybody says I'm the king of self-promotion, so if I can get a magazine to do some promotion on it, that'd be great.
You must be doing something right, because your name pops up on those damn message boards like all the time. So I know you're doing something right.
Paul, let me tell you how Brian became. Before I let you go, Brian became my co-host. It was maybe the third show, and I was like, I need somebody. I can't do it all myself. I need somebody I can bounce things off of, and somebody's got an opinion. And I get on the I get on the 4M, and every subject line under late models was Brian Gray. I was like, I don't know who this guy is, but he's fixing to be my co-host. And I made him a guest and said, hey, Brian, come back next week.
And now I've been around for over a year, Webb.
Oh, yeah, I mean, that's what I knew. We need more guys, I think, and I'm gonna get hammered on. Don't
say that we need more guys like me. What we need is more guys to stand up and be themselves rather than follow whoever they're following.
That's true. Exactly. We need more guys that would stand behind their opinion like you do. That's why you're my co-host, because you have an opinion. I don't necessarily have to agree with all your opinions, but I'm glad you have them. I'm glad you have them.
Well, I appreciate it.
You guys compliment each other very well.
We're both idiots.
As far as my column, my new column that'll be coming out in about a week is actually about a hitchhiker that I saw on the road down in Florida, and it's a female hitchhiker. And in the column, I want to pick her up and I want to take her off to wherever, but at the end, there's like a twist that not many people are really going to get, but I was actually thinking about somebody else.
Was she hot?
The hitchhiker?
Yeah.
She was, defined hot.
Well, what about, the girl in the story?
The girl that I was thinking of, or the girl that's the hitchhiker? Which one?
Well, the one in the story. So if we're reading the story, I need a visual image.
All right. Well, she's described, but yeah, she was really pretty. But
okay.
Like I said, at the end, there's a twist that only probably one person in the world is going to get. I was actually thinking about somebody else.
If you would have said she was wearing like a blackjack ball shirt, that would have been awesome. You could put that in the story.
No, she was wearing like a dark colored top and like a skirt that looked like it was made out of a canvas bag, like an old potato sack or something.
Oh my God!
You have to read the column.
Well, everybody check out Paul every month in the Late Model Illustrated. You're the third one in, aren't you?
Yeah, I'm the third column, and of course we have got some race coverage and profile pieces and news pieces and all kinds of interesting stuff on deeper in the magazine. And tell everybody about our website, latemodelillustrated.com, and we got a Facebook page too.
Yeah.
Am I allowed to do that?
Oh yeah,
you certainly are.
Can I wish Brian McLeod, our publisher, a happy birthday?
I was just getting to that, but go ahead.
I think he's like 60 or 50. I don't know how old he is.
I would say 60.
No, he's like 51 or 2. Hell, I don't know. He's probably going to send me an email like right now.
No, Brian McLeod, I think, turned 53 today. I think is what he. And I really appreciate Brian for the fact that since day one, he's always. After meeting him, he's always been very cordial, and when the first time he told me he actually listened to the show, I was like, why would you waste your time? Brian, I count Brian as one of my friends in the sport. Hopefully, he counts me the same. But Paul, thank you very much. We're going to probably tap you on the shoulder several times over the life of this program. Hopefully, this thing goes on forever, and we can talk to you on a regular basis.
Well, that sounds really good, and I appreciate you having me on. I really do.
All right. Well, Paul Fletcher, you can check him out every month in Late Model Illustrated, and, of course, he does some of the feature writing and race coverage. So, Paul, we'll talk to you at the Speedway somewhere or down the road, brother.
All right. Thanks a lot, guys.
Bye.
Bye.
All right. Let's get to Riley Hickman. Well, I know he's been waiting on hold for us.
Well, I don't know how long he's been waiting, but he's been there for a long time, and he's still there. Hey, Riley, how you doing?
I'm pretty good. About y'all?
Riley, we are struggling tonight. Power's out here in Northeast Alabama. I'm on a telephone on the side of the road. That's dedication, ain't it?
I'm sitting in my truck in front of a race shop because I have no service inside the shop. So
there you go. So hey,
it's been raining here, so
Now, Riley, first, congratulate you on the 2012 Southern Regional Racing Series championship last year.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah, and I heard something interesting about Riley too.
What's that? Oh no, what's that, Brian?
I believe I can fly.
Oh yeah, that's right. Okay, let's go to that real quick. Over the weekend.
Was I right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm still working on my pilot's license.
Yeah. Well, okay. Yeah, we do. We made fun of some pilots earlier in the season. I don't know if you heard the Smoky Mountain plane wreck skit.
No, it's Foggy Mountain.
Foggy Valley. That's what it was.
Yeah.
Anyway,
there was a plane wreck that happened at Smoky Mountain Speedway, though, but ours was Foggy Valley Speedway.
Yeah. So anyhow, I'm at the Speedway. I'm there covering the race at the Southern Officer race at East Alabama, and Rick Esserman had asked me to help out with throwing some freebies from Sunoco. He said, "Hey, let's go down to turn 1." So qualifying is taking place, and I hear your name, Riley. They say, "Riley Hickman, here he comes around, take the green or check or whatever." And I hear the car. I'm not necessarily looking at the Speedway, and all of a sudden I hear the car go airborne. I mean, literally I just knew that what I was hearing was an airborne race car, and I turned to my right, and you had cleared the berm, and it looked like you were 15 feet above the ground on the outside of that. So, what were you thinking?
I'll be honest, I when it went out, I thought it was going to turn over, but luckily enough, it hit on the right side door, and it kind of straightened itself up, and then I landed out there in the briar patches, so-called, out there on top of a retaining wall.
If I was to describe this to people listening, and in radio you got to be very descriptive, I would say you were sailing like a bucket lid.
Like a bucket lid.
Sailing like a
that wasn't on my bucket list, but it happened.
Did it have the weeble? Did it was doing the weeble wobble through the air?
I don't know. I had pucker factor.
Well, just give us a description. Start from the moment you go on, you get onto the track, you're on the gas through turn 1 and 2, and where does it go from there?
And you were allowed to be descriptive.
I'd already made that my first lap, and I kind of botched my first lap. I got up in the junk and messed my first lap up. So I'm thinking, well, I'm gonna really work on my second lap here, and I'm gonna really get after it and try to get me a good lap. So I only got one more shot. So I got through 3 and 4, taking the white flag for my second lap and draw in turn 1. It bottomed out a little bit, but it wasn't too bad. Well, I went to grab some brake there just to help me turn the car, and there was no brake to be had, and it just went right on out.
It was gone, brother. It was scary. I mean, luckily, listen, all jokes aside, I'm so glad you're okay, because it didn't look, when I seen you, it looked like it just looked bad. And but anyway,
the beauty of it, Webb, is that after it's all said and done, and he's okay, it doesn't matter what you make fun of.
Well, he mentioned there was no brakes, but I bet there were skid marks.
I didn't find any, but
he checked.
Let's go back to the SRS deal. You guys picked up the championship last year, and for people outside of the region who aren't aware of the SRS or whatever, this is no slouch league. You got guys like Billy Ogle Jr. racing in it. Ronnie Johnson, the Chattanooga Flash is there. Aaron Ridley. This is Putman who won the year before. You had a battle with him, the defending champion. Talk to us a little bit about the season last year, and what's it like to pick up a championship racing against those kind of guys.
It was a real confidence booster. To be honest, we started last year off running that deal. We wanted to run the whole thing, and we started last year off at the Jimmy Thomas race. It was a SRS sanctioned race. Kind of the same deal last year. I started 16th last year and ended up right around second to Shane Clanton there. The second race was leading at Clarksville and got into a scuffle with a lap car and got broke. So we fell out of that race. And the next race we went to was at Sugar Creek, and we didn't lock in, but we won a heat race. But the racetrack was really rough, and it was rough enough that it knocked the radiator cradle out of the car, and I only took one car. Actually, I took one car, and I hauled Johnson over there to race with us. so I'd only had one car, and anyway, we didn't make that deal. So after that, we ran Boyd's. The next points race was at Boyd's, and we ended up winning that one. And we had a bunch of second places. We only won one of those races, but we top five them to death pretty much. You know, we had a lot of top five finishes, and that was a big deal. You know, and Josh, those are great guys, and they, you know, he had a lot of problems there, and just was kind of snake bit at times, and you know, that helped us out points wise. But all in all, it was a pretty good season for us.
Anytime you pick up a championship, and especially with a series, I mean, it adds to the resume. But I want to ask you guys have your team you guys have a pretty good relationship with Ronnie Johnson, don't you?
Yeah, pretty much.
I mean, as far as, like, don't you guys help out with, like, maybe testing stuff, or, like, do you work hand in hand? It just seems like I remember hearing something about that.
Whenever we race together, we park together a lot. Most times we're the last ones to get there.
You think?
I guess he's kind of rubbed off on me, but I don't like getting anywhere early.
Yeah. Oh, so you get there late now too. I mean, but hey, if Ronnie does it.
Yeah, I don't. I don't like hot lapping a whole lot because it just messes me up most of the time. Yeah, we work real well together. We're friends on and off the racetrack. You know, he went to dinner with us last Friday night before we came to Phoenix City. But yeah, we're all pretty good friends.
Now what's funny about Ronnie is, you know, when I first met him, of course, it was at the racetrack, you know, and he's not a man of many words, and you think, oh, this guy's not gonna, you know, he don't want to talk, you know, this and that. Spend some time with him away from the racetrack. He's a chatty Cathy, isn't he?
Oh yeah. Yeah, I used him for about 45 minutes, almost an hour the other night on the drive home to keep me awake. So, you know, he sent me a text. He was all right to call at about 3:00 in the morning there, 3:30, almost 4, and I talked to him from Atlanta for a good ways home, and which it was good because everybody else was asleep.
Well, I work with Neesmith. I'm the media director, and I had to go to Ronnie's shop to film something, and I happened to have to take my 6-year-old little girl with me. She's out of school, whatever. But we're at this place there in Chattanooga. And of course, she's got to go to the bathroom. So Ronnie says, "Yeah, just use that boy right around there in the corner of the shop there." So we went over there, and he's got his calendar and his telephone right there in the bathroom. My little girl said, "Daddy, is this his office?" And I said, "Well, I guess it is, you know." And I just answering a 6-year-old's question, you know. And we get out there, back when she gets done using the bathroom, whatever, get back out, and she said, "Ronnie, or Mr. Johnson, I sure like your office." He had all his races planned out there on his calendar. But anyway, old Ronnie's a good dude. Oh, yeah. So what are you guys' plans this year? I mean, you kind of reluctantly chased the points, I guess, last year. You didn't plan on it. What are you guys' plans this year? Are you going to be following SRS, defend the championship, or just hit and miss? What's going on with the Hickman racing?
At the moment, we hadn't laid out the ironclad plan of what races we're going to follow yet, or what series. We're going to run a series, but I don't know exactly. We're second in the points in Southern All-Stars right now. Jonathan's leading. I think we're 20 points out or 25 points out, something like that. The ultimate deal, that's a possibility. We're leading the points there because we won that race last Sunday over there. And then the SRS, they come back to Boyd's this Friday. But we ran that first day race they had, and we're 8th in the points there. So we're probably going to run one of the 3, but I don't know which. Or we're just going to keep running until something overlaps, and then we'll make a decision on what we got to do then.
I don't know if you've been outside of the area of Chattanooga, Northeast Alabama, North Georgia, but I mean, you got to admit you're in a great place for racing. Do you have any desire to get out, or is there just that much good racing around here to keep you in the region?
I mean, I normally try to stay. I call it my 8-hour window. and I'll try to stay within my 8-hour window as long as we're going somewhere that's, going to pay decent or it's going to benefit us as far as knowledge and, learning something else, about our race cars, about me driving, about our whole program. And, we went off and started off that deal down there with Vaughn and you guys at Ocala. And we got in a wreck the first night and kind of tore up the car a little bit and never really got it back together the rest of the week. And I just, just got discouraged and I ended up coming home early, just to try to get back home and regroup. After we'd won that crate deal down at the Ice Bowl the first of the year, and we were just kind of really pumped up about going down there to the crate races, and then you just kind of get the wind knocked out of yourselves, and it's easy to get discouraged and whatnot. And Ronnie was trying to keep me to, just keep me positive and say, just, hang in there, you're getting there, just, but I was kind of stubborn, hard-headed, and I was going to leave. So we left out of there on Friday morning and came on home.
Yeah, I thought you guys might have been down there, but I wasn't for sure, and I certainly didn't want to bring up any old wounds from that. But now, can we expect you at maybe Boyd's or Seymour for some, other Neesmith events we got in the area?
Definitely. If there's nothing going on, we've already for sure we're planning on going to that deal at Boyd's. As far as the deal at 411, I really don't know yet. I'll have to look at the calendar, to be honest. We just kind of hit and miss if there's nothing going on. If we're not racing anywhere, if there's not a points race and nothing else that looks feasible, we'll race a weekly race at Boyd's in Cleveland or North Georgia or something like that. Just to be racing and race here around home. We ran 52 races last year, and Urkel that helps me there, he kind of had a calendar drawn out there at I guess it was right after everybody, put their schedules out there, and he brought it in there in the shop, and hell, he had over 80 races on there, and I'm like, I just don't see us doing all this stuff here, but we'll do all we can and go on for there. I don't race for a living. I have a family, and I've got a wife and 3 boys, and my family owns a manufacturing company, and we do a lot of work in the textile industry. And, I'm expected to be there at 7 o'clock on Monday mornings and at least until lunchtime on Fridays. So, I've got to be there as much as I can to help out and do what I need to do there.
Well, when I talked to you this morning and invited you on the program, I told you it was long overdue. Like I said, I was really trying. I knew that the racetrack, I'm just doing something. I'm pretty busy usually, so I apologize. Should have had you on a long time ago. But thank you for taking time away from the family this evening, or even the work there in the race shop. We're going to certainly have you back on at some point. So before we let you get out of here, I'd like for you to thank the family, the crew members, and any of the sponsors.
Yeah, you definitely got to thank Angie and Drew, Dylan, and Bryson. They put up with all this, and that's my wife and 3 boys. They put up with us being gone when they can't go. They go to a majority of the races now. Don't get me wrong. This is kind of a family thing, and I always wanted it to be that way. It's I raced go-karts with my mom and dad, and they got me into the cars, and it probably kept me out of more trouble than they knew, at that point in time. But, maybe if my kids take an interest in it, they'll want to race one day. If they do, they do. If not, I'll keep racing until I get old and feeble and, can't keep up. But Hickman Manufacturing, American Billet, Hoosier Tire South, Austin Trucking, Rick Hickson Fabrication, Tucker Mobile Home Service, VP Racing Fuels, Wealth Wheels, Gary and those guys out at FSR, they do a great job. Vic Hill Race Engines, we changed our program over to his engines last year, and that was a big asset to us was to be able to finish races and have reliable power and whatnot. So a big shout out to them guys. They have a great piece.
Well, what's for another thing before we get here? What's the next race on the schedule?
We'll be at Boyd's on Friday, and then we're going to Smoky Mountain. SRS races Friday at Boyd's, Smoky Mountains, SAS Southern All-Star races on Saturday at Cleveland, and it depends on what kind of mood we're in if we'll go to Duck River on Sunday for World Outlaw race.
Yeah, Bob Harris has got a lot of new stuff sure up there. He's put in a new scoring tower and several other things up there. So,
man,
well, good luck, Riley. Yeah, I just seen pictures. Have you seen anything? Has he done anything else besides just a scoring tower?
Yeah, I mean they put in they put in the new tower. They put in new bleachers. They built a whole new bathroom facility with showers, and they put in my kids will enjoy this the best. But they put in a new playground and whatnot over there, and he's really tried to make it a great facility. And when he took it over last year, he hadn't had that place but just a few days or a week or 2 weeks there before we went over there for the twin races that they had in June 28th or 29th, something like that last year. And I mean, they're just remarkable people. You can't say enough about Bob. He's really trying. A lot of people, probably make fun of the guy or whatnot for spending that kind of money on that place, and he just wants to have a show, someplace to show off and all of his money. But the man really loves racing, and if he's not a car owner or a sponsor, what better way to put back in the racing community than to own a racetrack? And he's helped all these people over the years racing wise, and they're just great people, I think, and real down to earth. And I see nothing but positive come from it. Maybe it'll make some of the other owner and promoters of racetracks around that they just let them go and they get run down, and maybe some of the fans and people will talk about going there, and maybe it'll make them hope to clean their place up a little bit, and just make racing better for family and fans. And it's if we don't have fans come to these races, we're not going to be racing.
Well, that's exactly. We got a track down my way. I'm not going to say any names, but you can't even go to the bathroom, and that's when I go to these races. Say you go somewhere like I-55 and people, immaculate, just immaculate. It's almost a NASCAR facility,
right?
And then you go to some of these places with a name, and that's all they got is a name.
That's it. And, I love going to Talladega, but it's not. I wish it was better maintained or whatnot, but it's they just don't put the. I think they've got several families there trying to pull all directions on that place, but it is Talladega, and everybody looks forward to going there. You look at Dennis Parker's place over there. That man has spent, I don't know how much money, but you can tell he spent a bunch, and he loves racing, but you hear people talk about it, and it just doesn't have. It just seems like nobody ever gives him the respect that he's due.
Well, if you would combine the two facilities, it would be one of the best in the Southeast. Wouldn't you agree? The Talladega Green Valley.
100%. Oh yeah.
You could, but that's the problem. I don't get how and while we're on the subject, I live in Gadsden, Alabama. Gadsden, Alabama will not for whatever reason support the track. I don't understand why. It's home to the largest sporting payout, the highest paying sporting event in 7 or 8, probably half the state. I can't think of another sporting event that has 16, 17,000 to win, whatever it is.
Right.
But I just don't get it, man. It's just for whatever reason. But then you can feel it stands out at Talladega Short Track for a weekly show. It doesn't make sense.
I know. I guess to each his own. It is what it is. Is what I say.
It is what it is. Well,
all you can do is hope everybody does all right.
That's right. Well, I certainly wish you luck for the rest of the season. We're gonna keep tabs on you and get you back on here. Next time you park it in Victory Lane, make sure we talk or communicate and see if we can get you back on. But appreciate you holding for us so long, and also taking time away from family. And we'll see you down the highway, brother.
I appreciate it. Thank you, sir.
Riley Hickman, number 1 out of Chattanooga. He's I've never got to talk to the guy. I mean, I've seen him pass him. And Brian, I'm thinking you're still there, right?
Yeah, I'm still here.
You know those guys that you want to talk to, but for whatever reason, just something gets in the way, and you get pulled this direction, that direction. Riley's one of those guys I've been wanting to meet. He's at almost every track I go to. It seems like I just never get over to the pit for whatever reason to talk to him. So glad I finally got to talk to him. Well, let's just stick a fork in this one. This has been aggravating. So
I kind of figured something out about the last 15 minutes is that if I kept refreshing this, I didn't get all that feedback. So.
Well, we were way overdue for Blog Talk to screw us. I mean, really, long overdue.
Well, I did learn something, so now I have another skill set for when things go bad. I figured out one way to try to fix the problem. So maybe that's a good way to look at it.
I want to commend you also too. Tonight you were just like Barbara Walters on, like with your questions and stuff. You did a good job tonight. I was like, when you'd ask a question, I'm like, I'm supposed to be asking the serious questions, but no, you did a good job tonight with all the guests.
Thank you, sir.
But before we get out here, I'll tell you what. I'll put my top 25 on the In the Dirt Facebook page for anybody who's interested. As soon as I get power back, I'm looking around here. It doesn't look like the area's got power back yet. But I'd like to thank, starting at the top, I'd like to thank John Blankenship. Congratulations on that big win over the weekend at Bulls Gap. Those guys came on strong in the end of the year last year with some wins. Started pretty good this year. Had a little bit of trouble at Green Valley. Didn't have the race he wanted. Then let's see, got somebody pulling up here. But also I'd like to thank Paul Fletcher from Late Model Illustrated for coming on the show with us and dealing with the problems that we couldn't get him online for whatever reason. Also, I should thank Riley Hickman.
I was calling him, but you were able to get a hold of him. I had no way.
Well, anyway, hopefully we salvaged the show. Hopefully it wasn't too much of a pain to listen to. So we appreciate everybody sticking with us. Brian, any closing thoughts?
Well, not too many closing thoughts. I hope people really take a serious look at this tire thing because it's going to affect local racers regardless. All those guys that used to get tires from some of these traveling teams, that's really where I think you're going to see a big hurt. Who knows? But on a good side, we have finished up some of our new carbon fiber work web, and it's going to be available real soon at autoglassresources.com. So anybody that needs any of those high-tech carbon fiber wheel covers, there is a super introductory price, $65 a piece. And they are epoxy-based carbon fiber. They're not this cheap resin stuff. These things, you could run them over with a truck. So I think that's something that maybe, we try to do to help keep, it doesn't necessarily keep the cost down, Webb, when you're talking about high-tech equipment. But if you want some of those light parts, at least, you got somebody out there trying to build them for you.
Well, if they're durable, then they last. So that'll save you money if they last.
Oh yeah, we've done some work with them. I'm going to try to get them on a few guys' cars here in the next couple of weeks, and really do some good hard testing. So I think that for the cost of the material, and we're going through and we're looking at some of these parts that you tear up or that break or that just don't hold up. It really does save you money in the long run. So
that's right. And plus, you got the XD4 noses, right?
Yes, sir. We got all kinds of that stuff out here, and those things have been flying out of the shop. Let me tell you. I guess everybody just decided to wait till the end of the beginning of racing season around here to start getting them. But we're keeping up on the order so far, but it's getting kind of hard.
And here's
you know what?
interesting.
You know, Webb, we did. Everybody else changed their prices on that stuff, and ours stayed the same.
So the XD4, they can go to. Where can they go to get a hold of you?
You can go to autoglassresources.com, and you can call the shop any time of day. So you can leave a message, or whoever answers the phone will be able to take the orders for you. So Visa, MasterCard, and Discover is accepted too, by the way. So don't mortgage your house, just your future.
Here's an interesting tidbit about my schedule. I'm home next weekend.
Are you going to still get to come to the Spring 50?
No, I won't, because I don't know yet. I don't know. I got to go to Lancaster. Let's see. Where do I got to go? Yes. 28th and 29th, I have the Lancaster Carolina Crown. I haven't decided if I want to ask if I can make the run, an 8-hour drive. Oh, my gosh. I mean, it's 8 hours from Lancaster, South Carolina to Florence. That's asking a lot. That's asking a lot.
That is a pretty good drive. So who's covering the icebreaker?
Oh, I'm sure that's going to be Rigsby or Kessinger, I would assume.
I got a feeling it's so muddy up there. Let me tell you something. We got flood warnings and everything around here right now.
Yeah.
So lots and lots of rain came through last night, and I think they're expecting more.
Well, don't get me wrong. If I'm asked to do it, I think I can do it. But, I mean, at some point I got to get warrior status. I worked all day at Volusia and made the 8-hour drive home after the checkered flag fell. That's warrior, right? I mean, I know it's a little stupid, too, but it's warrior.
I would think so. Yeah.
But anyway, well, all right. Well, go ahead and punch that theme music up, let it play for about 45 seconds, and kill the show. Everybody, for Brian, this is Webb. Peace out. Thank you for bearing with the program tonight.